when my daughter Margaret stared right into my eyes during our Thanksgiving meal and snapped, "Quit asking for cash. It's humiliating." Something deep within me shattered like glass under pressure. I put on a gentle grin, grabbed my cell, and messaged my financial institution. "Revoke all secondary access cards right away." Come dawn, 1000. My 3 unappreciative offspring would learn their monetary lifeline had disappeared quicker than their regard for me. If you're tuning in, hit that follow button and share your location in the comments. Allow me to rewind and explain how I, Eleanor Walsh, a 62-year-old former literature instructor from Ohio, wound up in a battle with my own kids amid the turkey and gravy. The chaos began when I gently requested Margaret repay the $15,000 I'd advanced her nearly a year prior for her home remodel. Not insisted, just inquired nicely, as if requesting the butter. "Mother, we discussed this." Margaret replied, barely glancing up from slicing her bird. "That was a present, right?" Suddenly, the $15,000 had become a handout, much like the $8,000 for David's vehicle deposit, or the $12,000 to clear Sarah's plastic debt. Odd how I couldn't recall consenting to hand over $35,000 from my nest egg as donations. "Sweetie, I actually saved the messages where you vowed to return it before the holidays." I responded, my tone calm. "I suggested we figure out installments." That's when Margaret set down her utensil and shot me that glare, implying I was out of line for seeking my funds. "Mother, come on. This is our holiday feast. Bringing it up now is so out of place." David, my 34-year-old boy who still struggled with his financial rating, jumped in. "Yeah, Ma. It's pretty crass to bring up finances at a gathering like this." Crass. It was improper for me to reference the loans they'd taken, yet fine for them to splurge on fancy trips and high-end bags while I pinched pennies on my educator's stipend. Sarah, the baby at 31, drove the point home. "We each support this household uniquely." The lozenge. "Just because you've got reserves doesn't mean you need to tally every cent like a moneylender." "My reserves," Ausnerd. As though my golden years fund was loose change from under the sofa, rather than 40 years of marking essays late into the night and scrimping wherever possible. But Margaret's follow-up sealed their doom. "Really, Mother?" Cease pleading for funds. Margaret rang again. The children required classroom gear and outfits, and funds were scarce. "Might I spare $500? Naturally, I was their parent, and they mourned their dad as well. Then David's ride failed. Then Sarah sought aid for relocation fees. Each instance, they assured repayment once life steadied. Life evidently never steadied, though their demands surely grew bolder. By mid-2024, I was essentially bankrolling their existence. Margaret's cooking space overhaul, David's scheme that proved a digital currency fraud, Sarah's tabs from retail binges I couldn't justify for myself. The twist. As I depleted my hoard to buoy them, I dined on budget broth and donned sweaters from 10 years prior. My own flesh and blood viewed me as affluent due to my assistance. Yet I was gradually eroding my instructor's annuity to prop their comfortable routine. I convinced myself it was fleeting. I assured myself they'd value my kindness once stable. I fed myself plenty of illusions that proved utter rubbish. The alert should have hit at David's celebration last year. I handed him $2,000 for housing aid. Soon after, I caught him boasting to his partner's folks that his wealthy ma always delivered in a pinch. Wealthy. The lady who'd skipped fresh footwear for 2 years was loaded, per her boy. Still, I continued issuing payments, because that's maternal duty, isn't it? We forfeit for our young. We prioritize their wants over ours. We offer until it aches, then push further. What escaped me was my kids had ceased viewing me as an individual with personal requirements and begun treating me as an asset to exploit. I wasn't their mom any longer. I was their private lender, and they'd grown quite at ease drawing funds without ever replenishing. The holiday supper was merely the breaking point. After years of hemorrhaging cash and earning only disdain, Margaret dared to frame me as the issue for desiring my assets returned. Well, as I eyed my screen glowing with urgent pleas I ignored, they were poised to discover just how formidable their mom could become once she quit yielding. The true sting. It unload about her union woes, while I laundered her clan's clothes gratis. David would sermonize on current events as I assisted his 4th relocation in 3 years. Sarah would browse her device, while I watched her pet each weekend. I was the greatest counselor, sitter cleaner, and financier bundled in a handy parental form. But what truly irks me, they truly felt they graced me by visiting. As if I ought to appreciate my accomplished, self-reliant kids deigning to fit their widowed ma into their packed schedules. Margaret once voiced it outright. "Ma, we strive to see you since we know solitude hits hard post-Dad. But you can't rely on us to fix your woes." My woes. Evidently, seeking my funds back was my burden, not theirs for claiming it initially. Post-holiday evening, as my device hummed with their escalating alarms, I lounged in my serene home and compiled a thorough tally. Each advance, each boon, each kindness rendered since Tom's departure 3 years ago. The sum hit over $53,000 in currency, plus endless hours of unpaid effort and heartfelt backing. Though $53,000 I'd likely never recover, bestowed on offspring who deemed requesting it humiliating. Well, they hadn't witnessed true shame, but it loomed. My device rang at 6:47 a.m., that shopping frenzy day. Margaret's ID appeared, but I savored my brew and perused the daily like any routine start. No hurry to respond. I had zero plans and ample hours. By 7:30, 15 ignored rings and a barrage of notes that amuse if not so sadly foreseeable. "Ma, my plastic failed at the store. Has to be an error. Ma, ring me, bank's glitched. Ma, pick up. Urgent." I completed my word game and tackled the number puzzle before glancing at them. David freaked next. "Ma, what gives? My plastic's dead and the shared funds sealed." "You're doing, sharp lad, my David." Mere 4 hours to deduce Mom ceased the games. Sarah's note topped them. "Ma, real grown up. Gonna tank our ratings over a kinspat." A kinspat. That's the label for ongoing monetary abuse. Evidently, I prepped a fine morning meal. Fluffy eggs with dairy, ripe produce, genuine citrus drink over the mix I'd skimped on. Best relish a tranquil dawn pre-tempest. At 10:15, Margaret appeared at my entrance. Through the spy hole she paced like a trapped beast, her cheeks flushed, checking her gadget constantly. I swung open the door, beaming innocently. "Morning, dear. Early rise for a break." "Ma, what happened?" Her pitch strained, barely containing a yell. "I ate breakfast. Eggs hit the spot. Coffee. Not amusing. Our plastics fail." Mark ditched his cart at the market. The young ones wonder why Pa can't grab their gifts. Ah, the young ones. Naturally, she'd invoked them. "Tried using your personal funds." Margaret's mouth gaped. "What do you imply personal? You granted us entry to those." "I provided crisis entry to mine. For genuine crisis, not propping your habits while dodging your dues." Her complexion paled. "Those were presents, Ma. You stated." "I stated no such. I hold every exchange, every note, every pledged return, care for a recital." Then the waterworks flowed. Grand, theatrical drops, akin to her childhood tantrums over denied toys. "Ma, please." "Groceries are impossible sans those. The kids require outfits. Holidays near. Odd you managed a city escape last month, but groceries evade now." No retort, as none existed. "I need you to go," I stated evenly, when prepared for a mature chat on settling what you took. "Dial to book a slot. Till then, off my land." "You can't mean it. Test me." Post-departure. I indulged in a ritual dormant for ages. A steamy soak with premium salts I'd hoarded for something special. Then I lacquered my tips crimson and summoned Asian cuisine. It mimicked a festive dawn fused with my anniversary. The group huddle stemmed from David. He dialed Sunday dusk with his polished rationale tone, honed for boss excuses on delays. "Ma, let's convene and sort this rationally. It's escalated." I consented to gather at Margaret's Tuesday dusk, not to yield, but intrigued by their weekend rude tactic. I showed punctually, in my finest blue frock, and the gems Tom gifted for our score anniversary. If conferencing is key, I'd appear the poised, capable lady I'd overlooked. All present Margaret and Mark, David with Jessica, Sarah and her latest boo, name irrelevant. They'd position like a panel. Grave expressions, clasped palms. Margaret, clearly chosen voice. "Ma, we've conferred and believe you're amid some sentimental collapse." I almost chuckled. A collapse, since enforcing accountability equaled instability. "We fret for you," David added. "This deviates from your norm. You've ever been so open, handed and forgiving." Forgiving. Indeed, I'd forgiven as they stripped my finances bare. Sarah inclined with her kindest look. "Dad's loss struck deep. Perhaps consult a specialist, a mourning advisor or shrink. There, the sorrow ploy. Clearly, the sole cause a lady sought repayment was lingering pain, not plain logic. You figure I'm unraveling for insisting on your commitments. I queried amiably. Ma, those weren't commitments, Margaret vented. Kin aids kin. You assisted us, eventually we'll reciprocate. When precisely does that future dawn? I've awaited 3 years for its arrival. Mark, good soul, attempted peacekeeper. Mrs. Walsh, perhaps devise a schedule, equitable for all, like Margaret's spring pact. 500 monthly from June. Unless my figures err, she tallies 3,000 hosen in arrears, the space hushed. Or David's tax return scheme. 18 months passed. David skip filing or just me? David's cheeks reddened. Ma, you're precise. Yes, precise. Sarah, share your store cent repayment vow. Sarah wilted. Ma, halt. The assent 10 months back, the one you marked with a spree splashed online. I rose, straightening my attire. My schedule. 60 days to restore all borrowed via agreed written timeline. Or I seek legal counsel. The quiet roared. You can't litigate your kin, Margaret murmured. I beamed. Observe. Thursday dawn heralded their gravity. Sarah arrived at 8 with a cash, stuffed packet. One's 200, all her accounts held. She swore. Ma, please. I'm rectifying. Eyed the wrinkled notes. Sarah's debt hit 12,000. She figured thudders and 200 mended it. Darling, this scarcely touches 1 month's lapse on your total. It's my current max. But I'll earn extra. Overtime vend items. Her plea should have stirred me. Months prior, it would have. But that predated grasping my kid's true view. Sarah, take a seat. Time for discussion. She teetered on the sofa's rim. Flight, ready. At 18, you maxed your account and sought me. Recall my money lesson. Her hue faded. Taking funds births duty, and duties demand fulfillment. And on kin and faith, bonds thrive on esteem, not ease. So clarify how grabbing cash sans return intent honors us. Sarah wept then. Not teen tricks, but raw heaves. I didn't aim for this. I meant to settle. But issues arose, and you seemed fine sans it, kept extending aid. Since I extended aid, you assumed no need to repay. No, not quit, she dabbed her face. Ma, I erred. I know, but total cutoff won't mend. Then I revealed my Tuesday find, sifting 18 months of statements and records stacked on my workspace. Sarah, you've charged my plastic unauthorized. Mail routed to my former box amid post loss forwarding snags, so I missed routine checks. Her tone shifted sickly. I plan to inform you. When to disclose year's gas, eateries, and web buys on my tab. I required them. Ma, my wage lags, housing spikes. So you boosted income via pilfering from Ma. Not pilfering, I'm kin. My kin who exploited me in my toughest phase. My kin who took advances sends repayment plan. My kin who banked on my sorrow or trust blinding me. I approached my workspace, extracting a prep dossier. Lawyer meet next week, Sarah. This exceeds kin advances. Unauthorized plastic use is deceit, kin or not. Her shade vanished. You won't charge. You wouldn't. Challenge me. First in adulthood, Sarah muted. Here's the plan. You'll repay every cent advances and improper transactions. You've got 2 months to devise a repayment strategy that gets my nod, or I'll pursue court measures. She departed silently, gripping the cash packet she'd offered as if it were a lifeline. 60 minutes later, my cell buzzed. Margaret. Ma, you can't menace Sarah with prison. She's the youngest. My youngest is a grown 31-year-old who engaged in plastic misuse. And if she encounters judicial fallout, it won't stem from my warnings. It'll come from her decision to pilfer from her parent. Later that night, David rang. Ma, this has to stop. It's tearing apart our household. No, David. You shattered the household by reducing me to nothing beyond a silver-haired lender. I'm simply declining to feign ignorance any longer. What are your demands? I seek what you seized. Every dime via a documented timeline and genuine penalties for skipping out. And if that's beyond your means, you should have pondered that prior to swindling me. I ended the call and brewed some herbal infusion. The next day, I met with my attorney to explore my precise choices. My offspring assumed this revolved around funds, but they missed the mark. This centered on esteem, self-worth, and instilling that choices yield repercussions, and I aimed to reclaim all I deserved. Post 2 hours of forms and checks. The overseer affirmed my hunch. Mrs. Walsh, your spouse held a company fund here. Balance upon passing 34 is the Lozan. We've sought the estate thrice yearly, but notices bounced undelivered. They'd targeted Tom's defunct workspace. Mrs. Walsh, has another party probbed this fund? My boy David. What precisely did he seek? The overseer squirmed. He posed as estate handler and inquired on fund retrieval. Upon proof request, he vowed follow-up. 6 weeks prior, David had aimed to snatch funds mine by right. Cash I ignored existed. What steps to secure this? As sole survivor sans contrary testament, it's yours, just finalized docs. By week's end, 34,000 hit my solo fund. Cash my boy tried to filch while draining my annuity. That night, I did what felt sublime after months. I dialed David. Hello dear. Had a fascinating bank chat today, quiet. They shared your probe on your dad's company fund. The one you sought sans approval. Ma, let me clarify. I'm certain. Like clarifying the 8 Sallows in vehicle need while plotting to nab 34,000 from your dad's stash. Not nabbing, I figured. You figured to tap legally mine while extracting from my nest egg. That's beyond nabbing, David. That's orchestrated deceit. The line stilled so long, I assumed disconnection. Ma, please. No harm intended. No, just robbery aimed. Subtle distinction. I disconnected and savored a vino pour. Come morning. I'd append attempted fund. Deceit to my son's tally of wrongs. The next month heralded the encounter I'd both feared and awaited. My trio consented to convene with me and counsel Patricia Chen for a binding settlement. We gathered at Patricia's suite on a dreary Thursday dusk. Margaret, David, Sarah arrived with their rep, a jittery youth named Rodriguez, seeming eager to flee. Patricia had geared up thoroughly. We're addressing Mrs. Walsh's assertions versus her mature offspring for roughly the 53,000 in unsettled advances, plus illicit plastic fees of 2,400, plus deceit attempt on Mr. Walsh's company fund. Rodriguez wriggled. My patrons assert transfers as presents, not debts. Patricia pushed a hefty binder over. These duplicate exchanges, correspondences, and memos where all three affirm repayment vows. Plus ledgers displaying routine plea and transfer patterns. I observed my kids' expressions as their rep scanned proofs. Margaret appeared ill. David fixated on his fingers. Sarah wept softly. Moreover, Patricia pressed. Proofs show Mr. David Walsh sought deceased dad's fund sans clearance. Bank affirms Mrs. Walsh's ownership. Rodriguez seemed beaten. Your terms. Complete settlement of advances with accrual, refund for illicit fees, and binding timeline with enforcement. And if unaffordable, Patricia's grin sliced. Court awaits. Talks spanned 4 hours. Ultimately, my kids consented to $55,400 total of $53,000 advances plus $2,400 fees. Accrue at 6% yearly from initial dates. Adhere to triennial timeline via payroll pulls. Food all council costs. Default permits salary seizure or asset holds. Exiting the suite, Margaret clutched my limb. Ma, please. Can't we resolve kin style? I regarded her with serene insight from unveiled reality. We ceased kinship when you pegged me as mere finance spout. Now it's commerce. That night, I toasted at the town's premier eatery. For the initial span in 3 years, I selected Desire's sans price glance. My offspring imparted life's prime wisdom. Esteem isn't gratis. At times it demands assertion, notation, and judicial backing. Yet they bestowed another drive to cease existing for others' nods and commence for self. By spring, installments flowed steadily. Margaret, 587 monthly over 3 years. David at 634 monthly over 3 years. Sarah, 421 monthly over 3 years. Astonishing how diligent they turned with auto payroll deductions. But the true shock emerged sorting Tom's docs deeper, tucked in his bureau slot, a beige packet labeled for Eleanor. Unseal post passing. Within, a missive reshaping my marital views. My beloved Eleanor, if this reaches you, I've departed, and truths await. The company fund Janet likely shared was your 35th surprise. Aimed for Ireland jaunt as dreamed, but more exists. I've harbored unrevealed signs. Recall lapses, disorientation. Dreaded echoing my dad's decline. Sparing you another ailing spouse burden. I confided in David on the fund fearing total amnesia, ensuring your receipt. Never aimed his solo grab. No, I've beamed with pride, daily wed. You're mightier than perceived, wiser than credited, meriting superior to a spouse hoarding worries. Bar the kids from leveraging your warmth, as I occasionally did. Grant yourself selfishness. On wort,